Hi everyone! I think this video has been a long time coming and is rather personal to me, so if I start rambling or ranting, please forgive me, but hopefully you'll find something educational and or entertaining. So this video is important to me or interesting to me because I am both an atheist and a nerd. I am non-Korean living in Korea, and I'm someone who grew up with an Asian culture. So for those of you that have followed me for a while, you'll know that I'm half Asian, and I've been really obtuse about exactly where I'm from, and that's all for a very specific reason. If you say something like half Asian, you just put it out there, people don't ask a lot more, usually. But if you say something like your specific country of origin or your specific nationality, people suddenly start asking questions that are not necessarily what I want to get into. And I definitely don't want to be reminded that you have yellow fever. I don't want to be reminded that Asians are hot. Ooh, you know, I thought you were hot before, but since knowing that you're Japanese, that's so sexy. Yeah, I'm not Japanese. They invaded my people. Oh, well, you're still Asian, so that counts. Thanks. That's super. Or being called exotic. I think that it bothers me, not for some weird, there's this weird reason that people are getting, it's, I don't know, a caricature of a social justice warrior sort of thing. I don't know any other way to really describe that. But it bothers me because it's depressing to be reminded that everyone has a very small view of the world. And I'm not saying this as a criticism of people in the United States or people in Western countries. It absolutely happens in Korea as well. When people that I work with know where I'm from, and then later on we'll talk about World War II or the Japanese invasion of Korea, and I say something like, yeah, my grandmother had to endure that as well, they say, oh, are you Korean? No, you know I'm not Korean. Did you think Korea was the only place that Japan invaded? Are you kidding? Just this view of, we're the only ones affected by this, or our experience is the most important experience. It's so frustrating to be reminded that people have such a small view in such a big world, and that's really unfortunate. For me, I hate being called exotic as much as I hate hearing, Lee, what's the weirdest food you've tried? There's no such thing as a weird food. There's food you haven't tried or you don't typically eat, but there's not a weird food. That food is normal to somebody else. That's part of somebody's daily diet. That's why I don't like thinking of it as a weird food. It's such a negative way to phrase it, or a dismissive way to phrase it. You know, it's just such a me way to phrase it. I don't really care for that. Weird, it's a word that has a meaning, and that's great, and I like using it in its actual context or its actual meaning. But to just assign things as weird because they're things that you don't encounter all the time, even if they're not objectively weird, that's very strange to me, and I don't appreciate that. It's strange to me that there's this idea among atheists that Eastern anything is okay and better. Like, Eastern religion is automatically better than those damn Christian religions or those damn Muslim religions. Keep in mind that West Asia is still Asia, so I don't know what's how that's somehow exempt from being Asia, but it is, I guess. People talk about things like Buddhism. I did a couple of videos in the past where I had mentioned in passing some kind of phrasing like, such as Christianity or Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, blah blah blah, God, blah blah blah. And people would jump in and say, hey, you know, Buddhism is not a religion, it's a philosophy. Or Buddhism doesn't have gods. There are absolutely sects of Buddhism that have gods. I've done temple stays at such places here in Korea. Absolutely. I remember going there and thinking that we were going to be introduced into something like Buddhism light, or, you know, just generally being ignorant about Buddhism, because I'm not Buddhist, I'm not from a Buddhist place. And hearing what other people said, oh, Buddhism is, you know, just this philosophy and it's not really a religion, and it's completely a religion, and there's all kinds of weird superstitions and completely wrong, radically bigoted shit that Buddhists believe. we had to walk around the statue of the Buddha and send our wishes to him so he would answer them. That's prayer. We had to make these stamp prints. It was a lot of fun. It was these ink stamp prints. And then we were told that they could one day save our life because there was a man who was super Buddhist and he made one of these stamp prints and folded it up and put it in his pocket. And then later on he got shot at, but the picture stopped the bullet. Haven't you heard that same dumb shit with the Bible or the Quran? Except it's even dumber because it's a single piece of paper. At least the Bible or Quran has several sheets of paper and some kind of binding that's, you know, leather-ish. That's slightly more believable. Getting shot and having the Bible stop a bullet is more believable than something that Buddhists believe. That's how stupid Buddhism is. And people will say, oh, well, Lee, you know, not all Buddhists believe that. Not all Buddhists. No true Buddhistman, no true Scotsman, right? No true Buddhist, right? Or, well, that's not part of the actual belief system. That's just something people say. Isn't that what you hear for literally every religion that people complain about? Same with Hinduism. It's not this benign thing. Have you heard of love jihad murders? They're this idea that Muslim men are infiltrating Hindu Indian families by targeting Hindu women and then marrying them to slowly twist India into a Muslim majority country. So if you find a Hindu woman and a Muslim man that have gotten married, kill those fuckers. There are people being fucking killed over this shit. There are people being killed because they're doing a thing outside of their caste, which Hinduism fucking loves. They are, like, wearing shoes, the wrong shoes for their caste. They get the shit beat out of them. They're owning a horse, which is they're not allowed to do that for their caste, so they get straight up fucking murdered. I mean, how awful is it to actually have a group that are Dalits, that are untouchable? That's horrible! How, like, we get on Christianity for having that slavery promotion, which is awful, of course. We get on Islam for talking about, what's the exact phrase, that's what Jews and Christians are like monkeys or something? That they're basically subhuman, and yet nobody cares that Buddhists treat a whole caste of people, that they have castes at all, and they treat a whole group of people as untouchable beneath them and will actively kill them if they do something that's not okay for their caste. How do we have these hypocrites that are in charge, like the Dalai Lama, who talks about Europe is for the Europeans, you know, you should help the refugees, but, you know, send their asses back to their home, let them fix their own fucking home country. Meanwhile, the Dalai Lama is a Tibetan refugee who led thousands of Tibetans into India and continues to live in India in exile. I mean, this guy is a big fucking hypocrite. And nobody cares what. The Dalai Lama is this super peaceful guy. There's this whole history of the Lama class and treating people as slaves or serfs, which is hard to really figure out because of, you know, conflicting histories from pre-Chinese invasion. But it's, you know, the fact that Tibet created a communist party to promote equality, which is what a lot of places did to promote equality because there was social inequality, shows that just being run by Buddhists doesn't promote social equality. It's the same in Bhutan. There was a bunch of fucking slavery. That's not awesome. So I don't understand why people think, oh, it's Eastern, therefore it's better. Maybe it's this idea that it's older. I mean, if you want to get old, go to Africa. How come nobody's pulling out all these African religions and African traditional healing and such? Why is nobody talking about shamanism, ancestral worship? Our native religion is ancestral worship. And that's seen as silly and goofy and stupid. And it is, you know, as an atheist, I can definitely say it's ridiculous. But what Buddhism isn't? It's not silly and goofy and stupid? I don't understand what makes Buddhism and Hinduism like this exciting, interesting religion, and then all these other religions are not. Or some people are way into shamanism. Oh, shamanism's in touch with the earth and all this stuff. Or ancestral worship, it's about like the spirits and being in touch with the spiritual world and recognizing where you're from, and like, okay, maybe that's what you want it to believe. We are scared fucking shitless of our ancestors. We don't go into their jungle, we don't touch their rocks because they'll fucking curse us. And that was one thing I never understood. Why do my ancestors hate me so much? They've never met me, but shouldn't they be nice to me because I'm like their great granddaughter? Why are they such assholes? And then if they try to communicate with you, there's this whole way they do it, which is to do something weird, such as a dead tree suddenly grows a fruit, like a good fresh fruit. And then if you see that and you pick it, then you have accepted the start of communication with the ancestors, which comes at a really negative price. There's like stories of people that are able to teleport, or these old uncles, everybody's uncle, these old uncles that are able to heal anything, but then after they do it, they're really sick for such a long time. I don't see how that's like a good religion. It's number one, silly as an atheist, and number two, just not awesome. You know, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous in so many ways. If people want to talk about like traditional medicine, traditional Eastern medicine, my grandma was a medicine woman. You know what being a medicine woman basically is? You know plants that do some shit, and that's about it. That's pretty cool. You know what's even cooler? Is like figuring out why those plants can do cool shit, and then distilling that, and then standardizing it, and then making sure that every time I take that extract of a plant, that I'm getting a certain dosage, and I know how much I'm getting, and I'm not getting anything else. I'm not getting more, I'm not getting less, I'm not getting any extra stuff that might upset my stomach or what have you. And that's exactly what we do. That's how we get things like the statin drugs, for example. Aspirin is another example. A lot of these came from things that are in nature that have been used as traditional medicines. And what, aspirin's not good, but white willow bark is? You know? This statin is terrible, but red yeast rice is like the best thing. Like, I don't understand how improving something made it bad. And the raw version, the unfinished rough version is somehow superior. I don't get that. If these things work, you know, check them out. I think that we should, and we should learn from them. And that's exactly what we're doing, which is super awesome. So I don't understand why people are against medication, but in favor of chugging down any old tea just because it's got some Chinese character on it. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. And I hope that, you know, this video has kind of let you know that all the things that you might see about Western culture that are humdrum and ridiculous and obviously at fault and obviously stupid are exactly the same things that everybody on the Eastern side is thinking about their own stuff. You know, there's dumb shit in my culture too, which is Confucian inspired. People talk about Confucianism like it's this wonderfully amazing thing. You know what's not amazing? Being hit because you corrected your elders. I'm sorry, Auntie, you're factually wrong on this. It doesn't matter how tactfully or kindly I say it, I'm wrong because I'm younger. That doesn't make any sense. That is a stupid, stupid way to behave. Or to be entitled to things just because you're older. Yeah, if you see some like elderly person with, you know, kind of shaking, give him your seat. You know, do that. That's a nice thing. But if a person feels entitled to your seat, even when they appear to be completely healthy, which, you know, appearances can be deceiving, but if you're like vomiting and need to sit down, nobody should be yelling at you because you didn't get up. You need to sit down too. It's okay to sit down. The idea that these things are all mystical or what have you, it just speaks to the fact that you personally don't understand it. for those of us that actually do understand it, it's just the same dumb shit you don't like anyway. You know, it's the same believe that gay people are wrong, or if you don't have sex this way, that's wrong. That's found in Buddhism and Hinduism too. You know, the idea that, oh, this cultural setup is ridiculous. Well, there's a lot of ridiculous cultural setups too that we have. It's not... Grass is always greener, okay? But just remember, all that mysticism, it ain't mystical. You just don't understand it. And once you do understand it, it's the same dumb shit that you hate in your own country or in your own larger culture, like a Western culture, for example. So I hope this has been informative, and I hope you guys check out all the dumb shit about things like the Dalai Lama, or things like Hinduism and love jihad murders, and all that just ridiculous shit about women not being allowed into temples because they're on their period, or women not being allowed into temples on the off chance they might be on their period, or people that are considered lesser because they're born into a certain caste or a certain family, and it's awful. This shit is bad. And for people to just excuse it because it's mystical Eastern religion, I mean, shit. Go to yoga because it's fun, but don't, like, create this whole mystical nonsense about it because you don't actually want to Google it for yourself. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to post it in the comments section below. No, I'm not going to answer any questions on where I'm from. If you say anything about being exotic, haha, because Lee didn't like it, just gonna ignore you, whatever. But any other questions or comments are totally cool. If you have another way that you want to contact me, maybe you don't have a YouTube account or something, there's a bunch of different ways to contact me in the details section below. There's also a Discord now, which is pretty cool. I've been having that and not talking about it actively, so now that's being talked about. Fantastic. There's also Patreon, so if you got stuff you want to see or check out that's not necessarily in line with my channel, you can check out my Patreon. You get like exclusive videos, especially viewer request videos, exclusive like pictures and blog posts that I only post on Patreon, and you know, you have access to all of it for as little as $1 a month, because you can set like a cap where you're only charged once a month, which is pretty cool. I guess that kind of wraps it up. So as always, thanks for listening.